when I get asked in like either in a all hands meeting or outside meeting, I kind of tell that look, uh, my mission is to truly create 100 plus millionaires in their own region. Like I mean, millionaire in US perhaps would be little different scale, but millionaire in India or millionaire in Japan would be amazing.
Welcome to the Owner's Journal. Today we have Rupesh Sanghavi, founder, president, and CEO of AirGoad. It is a global e-commerce reseller, one of the top 25 e-commerce D2C resellers on Amazon and Walmart. Three-time Ernst & Young nominee for Entrepreneur of the Year, two-time finalists. Rupesh Sanghavi, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming out today.
Well, thank you for having me, Kurt. Really appreciate it.
So walk us through, we've had a couple of conversations, walk us through the origin story or the humble beginning story of Rupesh from starting this company in 2007, I believe, to all of this success, a global staff, a remote management environment, selling 5 million products a year digitally.
Great. So I'd be happy to share journey a little bit. So I was working as an application engineer, which is supposedly a skill set of chemical plus computer engineer in one of the company when I started this business. I how it started was I was buying a book for my wife, a textbook at that. Realize I mean, just searching through, of course, textbook stores or the campus bookstores were the most expensive. The next best bet was perhaps Amazon at that time, and I thought, why not explore eBay? And I was just searching through book and actually stumbled upon a book, not a textbook, that was selling for $40 on eBay, and it was pre-sold for $1,600, some 1,600 odd dollars on Amazon. I
Whoa.
said, wow, got to be a good find. I took a chance, took a plunge, and that $40 investment really gave me a good return, as you can imagine, within a week. And I was hooked. I was so hooked, I couldn't wait to get more of it. And from there on, I developed a professional buying system on eBay at perhaps least price. Like I developed a special software system that will tell me what are the deals on eBay out of millions of listings. And then that way I kept kind of automating and using technology one step at a time. And so eBay used to be my source. And from there on, of course, I realized that with eBay, like I still have to take a possession of inventory and trust. Like I mean, I sort of thought, what if I don't have to? And that's when I pivoted business from sourcing from eBay.com to half.com. Now it is shut down. That was the company owned by Amazon, sorry, eBay at one point. And so almost in first 5 to 6 years, I kept changing business model, expanding business model in like from US to international and so on. As I needed more hands, I started hiring remotely. So we have done work from home before, like a decade
Before it
before
was a thing.
COVID. Yeah, that was the thing. And because my mantra even today is that if I can do it on a computer, I can do it from anywhere. So there is no limitation. But like a large pool of our workforce is based out of India, where there is an enormous amount of talent. And we have 6 offices there. And I think that is one of the key decision, I would say, helped us stay afloat in this in this very competitive e-commerce world.
Hiring in India, where there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of
Absolutely.
big pool of talent. I want to go to talent in a minute, but I think the question on everyone's mind,
Sure.
it's been on my mind since I first talked to you, was what was the book? You know, I have some guesses at what the book was, but to get that kind of a markup, which is how many thousands of a percent markup on a $40 investment?
Is I think it's closer to 4,000 percentage. And you know what? I've never been like asked what was the name of the book, and I don't remember, but
You don't remember the name of the book?
no, I like my bad. But one thing I remember is it was a my cell phone size book. Okay, this is the size of the book, and
Wow,
it was a literally a book for a toddler, perhaps less than 2 year old.
really?
Yeah, and I mean, like, but after I sold, what if I was kind of thinking, what if it was a book to be sold for $1 million? Just somebody got $1,600 from me, and sorry, somebody gave me $1,600 for it, only to be found out. Like, I mean,
It's worth a
maybe
million.
like I
Yeah.
should have, yeah, check the news a week later that book sold for $1 million.
There is a writer I know that wrote children's books in the late 1800s. It was in an old book,
Yeah, it was an old book.
original copy, obviously, original first edition. I would guess, but this is. I'm going to make this my life's work to find out what the name of that book was and who the author was, because you have everybody wondering how they can turn a 4,000% profit on eBay to start a business.
Right. Yeah, it was a fun little transaction, and it was like it definitely helped a lot. And I mean, yeah, that is where that's the origin.
Amazing. Well, tell me about the business. You're based in Texas. You are currently you have you have staff in 6 different cities on a
Correct.
handful of different continents, right? I think most of your remote staff is in India, but you have some in Hong Kong. Walk me through the footprint.
So we have most of like I mean, our largest team is in India.
Mhm.
Um, then we have team in US, warehouse, shipping, logistic, sales team. Um, and that is also in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Houston primarily. Then we have I mean, because we sell around the world, we have individuals working for us in Japan, Nepal, and Vietnam. At Vietnam, at one point, we had more than 5 people working for us. Now, not any. Now we have a smaller team. So we have a team, kind of sparse team around the world, and we use a lot of freelancer as well to get the projects done, and they could be anywhere in the world.
Now, this isn't the typical interview I have where it's a leadership team meets every couple of weeks and they run sort of an EOS level 10 style meeting. It could be, but I'm wondering, I think what the listeners are thinking about is how do you grow this and scale this company, which you have scaled, um, with sounds like 100% remote team. And what is the biggest challenge you've found over the years with finding the right people to lead that group of entrepreneurs? Really, there's a lot of freelancers involved in this, and I would think a freelancer is an entrepreneur just like yourself.
Correct. So I would say that I mean, say I'm a remote, or I'm a I have to be remote to most of the leaders, because with so many, like I mean, the people spread geographically so wide, I
Yeah,
can't
of
be
course.
anywhere, right? So I'm absentee or remote leader. And that is a major blessing in disguise, because that way they don't feel that I'm always on their, I mean, I'm watching them closely. They get almost all the freedom to think, experiment in terms of time to do their work, break. I mean, see, I'm not a boss in a traditional way, so it kind of makes them, gives them a lot more
Autonomous.
freedom.
Yeah, it gives them a great amount of autonomy.
All right, absolutely. And that autonomy, like, definitely shows up in many ways, because when they, like, I kind of, my favorite line is, it is my job to remove obstacles from your, like, remove obstacles on your path to success. I'm available when you need me, otherwise I'm out. Don't count on me. So that is how it has it has got us to this fine balance, where I do make sure that I stay in touch. I respond to emails, text messages every single day. Like, I mean, I'm this inbox zero boss, that I don't like to go to bed with any email pending on my inbox. So they always hear from me, but I'm not micromanaging them. And that is, I think, one of the biggest lesson I've learned. Second thing is, I think most of the people really mean good, and they want to grow business. So, and they want to grow themselves as well in the process. And why it is important is, more than anything, if I talk to most people about their growth plan, they have, um, I have their attention and I have their ears. So I like make them focus on growth and a larger picture than getting stuck with either people or technology. I think once they see larger picture, they obviously have more ideas for solution to the issue than I can even think of. So I think reminding everyone about what lies ahead and what's at stake makes a huge difference.
I hear, I think all the best managers or leaders I've ever worked under
Mhm.
have always led with their mission is to remove obstacles. Yeah, some of them don't think that's their mission, right? But the best ones do, right? And they don't just say it, but they do it. But what I heard was the keys to your success as a leader of this company are make yourself available at all times. Don't leave anything unread in your inbox before you go to bed. Remove obstacles, support personal growth plan. And that's something that, you know, um, that might be the most important thing is to understand, okay, you're working as you're part of my company, right? That I founded, but it's really about your personal growth and how I can help you achieve that through this vessel, like through this vehicle that I created, right? And when you get to that level of, wow, this guy has my back, this guy is interested in my personal growth, not just my ability to make him money. Um, now you have power. You have a powerful team. You have a team that can grow. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, definitely. It helps. And also, just to add to it, like, I walk the talk. See, I mean, one of the good part is, since founding of the company, we have been profitable. We have grown, like, we are still bootstrapped, no external investment or debt. That means I have a lot of, I mean, I have almost all the equity, or I had it. And at one point, about 3 years ago, I sort of created an ESOP program, that is employee stock option plan, where they get small action of ownership.
Yep.
And that kind of, I mean, a lot of time, when I get asked in like either in a all hands meeting, or outside meeting, I kind of tell that, look, uh, my mission is to truly create 100 plus millionaires in their own region. Like, I mean, millionaire in US perhaps would be little different scale, but millionaire in India or millionaire in Japan would be amazing, right? I mean, because and everybody in the company gets ESOP. It's not just the upper management.
Yeah.
Maybe, of course, there is a variation in the number of stocks they get, but
Mhm.
everyone has something.
It's a
So
piece. It's a piece of the pie,
exactly,
and it keeps them engaged. I'm sure it's not just your attitude, right, and your belief system, which you have a strong one, because you want to create millionaires in each
yeah,
region, is what I just heard.
absolutely.
But I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is. I founded this company. I bootstrapped that. A lot of owners. Let me just say that a lot of founders would say, man, you didn't put the sweat in to start this thing. You didn't take the loans out, or you didn't take the money from savings. Why should I offer you a piece of this company? But you have the opposite philosophy. Why is that?
Because I think after a point, your ability to spend money is, I mean, okay, I think I don't have a lot of need. I'm equally comfortable in any kind of settings, from five-star hotel to a crowded street. I'm perfectly okay. So my spend or my wishes are not of a mega scale. And I think, I mean, like, as a student, if I did not had a scholarship, perhaps I would not be here. So I truly think that money spent in a right way makes a difference. And this is not even my money. This is, I think, they are all contributing towards it. So
Yeah.
why not give back?
You have such a great attitude, and wow, just that the whole minimalist mentality. Hey, I don't need anything more than what I have right now, right? But I'd love to create more. I think is kind of what you're saying. I'd like to create more. I'd love everybody to have this feeling that I have of, this millionaire mentality. Like I'm not wanting for anything, right? But I'm not lavish with what I do with the earnings of this company, the profits of this company. Are there any types of, it makes me think of, is there any type of nonprofit bone in your body, or is there something that you like to sort of donate, your time or your money to that's not nonprofit, that has nothing to do with the business?
So yes and no. So I've done that, and I'll continue to do that. But just maybe it's my nature or entrepreneur. I still somehow think that this institutional non-profit is not my thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you just drop the money and walk away is perhaps not like, I mean, I see a lot of um, other purposes that money ends up being used for, or
Mm,
I mean, that's just me being little conservative. But yes, personally, I mean, like, me being from India originally, that's where I grew up. I
hmm.
still support lot of students who wants to go out of India as a student and make their life, because for me that was the path I traveled, and I truly believe that. So I mean, coming from India to US isn't very expensive for most students, because they end up paying out of state tuition unless they get scholarship. So that is where I I support those kind of a scholarship in my
Yeah,
own ways. And that's my way of
that's your
supporting
passion. You
non-profit.
said, I was able to do this. I'm blessed. I was lucky to be able to do this, follow this path, and get to this position. I would love to see others do the same thing in their own way.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. And I'm happy and proud to say that many have done it.
That's great. Congratulations, Rupesh. That's really
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Thanks.
The next place I want to go is this whole idea of hiring and onboarding and knowing that you have the right fit for Ergode. You know, how do you know? How do you think you know you have the right person in front of you when you're interviewing them to work for this company? Where can you tell us a story about when you thought you did versus when you know you did and you still believe you did find the right person?
Correct. So I think the easiest and measurable way for me is the amount of time and efforts it took me to continue the conversation. If we hit the right off, I think like 1 or 2 hour schedule talk time just passes by, and both of us, like after 3 hours, we realized that hey, ended up talking a lot more than what was scheduled. And to me, that's just the right thing.
That's a good sign.
That's a great sign, exactly. And if we like start to talk about, I mean, if we start to slow down during that conversation, it usually means that hey, like I mean, we don't have as much overlap.
Right. We're not speaking the same language. We're not
Yeah,
connected. We don't have the same goals. If it's hard to have the conversation, I have to start over. That's very fascinating. That's interesting. Some people say if you can finish your own sentences, right, then you kind of know you got the right partner or right business
exactly.
partner.
Yeah, in engineering language, it's called rule of thumb. So
Rule of
that's,
thumb.
yeah, exactly. So that's how it is. But it's obviously it's not a perfect, it's not always the right measure. A lot of time, I mean, this may not be a word from dictionary, but I invented called fitment. That fitment comes
Fitment.
from,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. It comes from this car parts and accessories industry, perhaps. That it is not only about resume or their past experience. I think there is this X factor that matters a lot more. The person's mindset, our culture, how they want to, I mean, see, I mean, by nature, I'm not a, um, how do I say it? That like, I want to take a calculated risk. I don't want to take a blind risk. Risk is definitely in my nature.
You're very prudent.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the right way to say it, right? So I
Yep.
want someone to go with those kind of values.
Hmm.
And once we start working, those things comes to uh, fore, and that's when I sort of realize that like how it is working. So I think more often than not, hiring has worked out, but there have been some of the fantastic mismatch also has have happened, and that's just a part of journey. That's how, like, I mean, mismatch is, like, say for example, like a lot of time people think that we are, I mean, and it is around the world, not just India, that people think we are US company, so they would eventually be working from a different geography.
Hmm.
Now it has happened, but sometimes it may not happen. Sometimes the position is just there, like geography doesn't matter. So those kind of when people come with those different expectation, it becomes hard to work together. Sometimes I've seen more often than not, a lot of time when they come for an interview, they say, oh, I have a 20 years of experience. Great. 15 years of experience. Fantastic. But then they come into the system, and after like even a year, they say, oh, I'm just a year here, I'm still learning the ropes. Well, you have had enough time. So yeah, I don't want to be in a situation where I hire and pay for a high experience only to realize that we are teaching them then other way around. So we are, that way we are very mindful about ROI from the team that we get. And I mean, I think ultimately I've seen more often than not, people who leave us voluntarily. I mean, because they got another job and stuff. We have perhaps one of the highest interest in rejoining ratio. A lot of people want to come back
Yeah,
after few.
boomerang employees, boomerang
Yeah,
pod.
boomerang is the right word. So, I mean, and we have a good amount of those boomerangers, so to speak, and that keeps our confidence high that A, we are doing something right, and we continue to do it.
Let me ask you this, based on what you just told me. I usually ask this question and I give you three options, but I'm going to give you a fourth. And that
Sure.
is if I could wave a magic wand and say, I'll give you whatever capital you need, or I'll give you whatever time you need, or I'll give you whatever people you need. The fourth one I would say is I'll give you whatever hiring process you need to retain the best people for the long-term growth of your company. Which one would you take of those four? You could have any of those four, but just one of those four.
Correct. I would say that number three, whatever people I need
Yeah,
would be the my choice. That when you have a right people on your bus, I'm sure they can easily get other resources like capital, technology,
right,
create time. All of this is possible.
right,
And in terms of hiring process, I think like we can have world's. I mean, at least that's my experience. That I'm a big fan of Wu book. That is, I mean, I think like every perhaps most of us have read it. Uh, that is all about hiring the best talent. And what I've realized that even that, like even after following all the steps and everything, still the success is about 50-50.
right. Yep. Yeah.
So that's why I would rather go for a people who are already right match with the right mindset
Mhm.
and attitude. That's all I need to grow the
The
company.
process takes care of itself if you got the right person in front of you, and if you're answering each
Yes,
other's sentences like kind of we do sometimes, right? Here.
spot on.
Amen. Amen. I agree with you. What was the expectation of being a business owner versus the reality that the biggest, I guess the biggest aha moment in the expectation of being a CEO of an e-commerce company versus the reality? How is it different?
Fantastic. Absolutely. So, two things I would say. One is there is a very defined and silent loneliness on the top. Most of the my what goes in my mind, I cannot tell or share with my family, wife, because of many reasons, including them assuming or they may not be able to understand the full context or whatever,
Right.
right? Or sometimes, I mean, my wife, she does a fantastic job, much harder than me, is to raise our three kids. And I don't want to bother her with anything else, right? So that's, and then I cannot discuss some of the issues with my top team members as well, because either it is about them. Perhaps they may think that I'm passing some silent message to them. Inadvertently, I may end up starting some rumor or hearsay that I didn't mean to. So, I mean, it kind of, I mean, and these are the like my family and my team members are perhaps 80 to 90% of my conscious time that I spend in a day. So I don't have many people outside company that I can go and explain. And in the past, I've tried some mentors, paid and unpaid, just to give you an idea. But I always get a, I mean, there are some fantastic mentors out there. But for me to get them the gist, what I've been dealing with for past few months, thinking about for past few weeks, getting them the central idea in few hours that we have usually interaction becomes very difficult, at least for me. So with that, it leaves me not many people that I can go and speak, and that loneliness is the challenge. At the same time, another major revelation, and it's completely different from the first one, is that this is the time, and perhaps that's my personality, is to be a servant leader.
Hmm.
That um, I have to walk the walk, talk the talk. I cannot, I mean, gone are they are professional, accomplished individuals, and they're not even remotely, so to speak, my slaves, so to speak. So I have to be very, very, like, I have to manage my tone, no matter how much I'm frustrated for other reasons. I still have to show up with full energy, full smile
Yeah.
every single day,
Yeah.
because I define the tone and culture, and I know
Right.
full aware, I'm full aware of it. Um, I hardly, so that's how I manage. And this is something like, perhaps if I were to talk to 20-year-old Rupesh, I would not have anticipated these two things.
Yeah, you said a lot. You said a lot there. You said a lot of what I think CEOs and business owners are feeling, which is you can't discuss. There's just business owning and running a business. The problems are so complex. There's so much context to them that speaking to an employee about it, first of all, the tone wouldn't be right because they don't really they're not seeing eye to eye with how they're looking at the problem that you're having, right? They're in a completely different category of decision maker. Um, and then with family, it's like, okay, I could dump all of these issues on you, all the things that I'm thinking about, but it would probably take me a few months just to go through the backstory. So I feel like I'm in a position where I'm by myself trying to manage these problems, and that's a big problem. And it's actually one of the reasons why I started this podcast was so that others could hear this message, and hopefully, other CEOs are as honest and open about it as you just were. Um, not all are. Not all are, right? They have that armor on. They're like, hey, I don't want anybody to hear this, but this is hard. This is really hard. But I appreciate that you went there with me, and yeah, we kind of talked about that on our first call. Sometimes I ask questions and I really want to know the answer, so you just start giving it to me because you can tell I want to hear your answer.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, that's how it is. And I think most business people go through it, no matter size or the industry. It's, and I think that's what entrepreneurs are made up of, is to take difficult situation
Mm.
into opportunity. And
Opportunity. I would say entrepreneurs for sure are problem solvers. If you start a business and you don't see yourself as a problem solver, you're very quickly going to realize that you have to be. That you have
that's
to
true.
learn it, right? Because the bigger your business gets, the bigger the problems. I mean, they're more. I like to say they become more. The solutions become more profitable, right? The solutions to the problems you have are more profitable, but they're just bigger. They just get bigger and bigger. The bigger your business
Correct.
gets.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, there is a pain. I mean, who would have thought that growing too much too fast is also a problem, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
have to, I mean, like, need to have a corresponding system and people in place before you take on. I mean, and that is also part of learning that I've realized that, I mean, growth is good. Managing that growth is a good problem to have, but it
yep,
is still a problem that one needs to think through and solve.
yeah. Growing too fast. That's another one I hear a lot actually when I in my daily interactions with business owners is, man, I didn't realize I grew too fast. I actually grew too fast. and I'm not sure what to do about it.
Right.
Or, well, we got this building. It's too small. It's, we just kind of outgrew our surroundings here, and and I'm spending time thinking about how I can get a different building, you know? That's a pretty popular one. And it's time consuming, right? You don't, as a business owner, a lot of times if you're doing face-to-face interactions, it's you want to go out and see your best clients and focus on customer success and be the
Right.
figurehead and have, be smiling and shaking hands and having drinks, right? But you're sitting
Yeah.
here thinking about how do I get a good deal on a property, where's the best location so that my employees will be happy, you know,
Absolutely.
um, and the customers will be happy ultimately in the end too. So
And
this has
see,
been great, Rupesh. What have I missed in this interview? Is there anything that you've been dying to talk about or think about in terms of um, your goals for this company? I heard some really great things. To summarize, you want to make millionaires in each region, 100 millionaires in each
yes,
region that you operate in, 100 millionaires in each region of the world that your company operates. I think that's
absolutely.
enough. I think that's a pretty good goal. And you've kind of outlined how you're going to do it, right? I mean, or how you've been doing it, but I'm sure it's always a thought like, you know, what's going to get me to that next level, right? What's going to take this company to the next level? What have I not thought of? What do you think? What do you think that is? The answer to that is,
So I think, see, there are like unknowns, right? I mean, and say, for example, latest example I would say is AI, that perhaps, I mean, at least I got to admit that despite being in technology industry, I had absolutely no anticipation that AI will come this fast and this good.
Mhm.
Okay. So it changes a lot of things for us in our plans. So, and now we have a chance to embrace it or deny it. And I think we are doing a lot more acceptance than not. We have changed our software, built our processes around AI because I like the line that it's not AI that would replace the job, but people who don't learn the AI would be replaced. So, I mean, I encourage everyone um, in my team that I mean, there is no restriction. Let's kind of go out, learn it, and master it.
Okay.
And so, those are the, like, I mean, there is a, like, I mean, theory that, sorry, like, you make me talk a lot and I like it, that there is a theory that how if every car were to be a self-driving car, it will crash the property prices in most downtown across the world by more than half. So
It'll reduce the property. It'll crash the property values by more than half.
property values by more than half, right? I mean, there is one theory that how self-driving can affect property prices. Very fascinating, simple
Wow.
to understand. But so, okay, point is that anytime when we have new technology, I mean, we have adopted and um, adopted it and molded our ways to it. And I think that's what we need to continue to do, that continue to look on horizon, and especially snowballing effect coming from AI has made that new technology invention shorter and shorter. So
Embrace and adapt.
yeah,
Embrace and adapt to the new AI culture that seems to be have moved in extremely fast, or a lot faster than anyone could have imagined, I guess, is what you're saying.
yes, spot on.
And I have heard that. Have heard that AI may reduce the prices of many things that are extremely expensive right now. So
Yeah.
how do we prepare for that? Like, what does that mean, right? What does that mean to your career, to the way that you do business? Um, that there's just so many different avenues you can go, right?
Exactly, Kurt. And that's what I mean. So as a leader, I mean, even Jeff Bezos at once says that there will be a time when Amazon will no longer be relevant or will no longer be growing or perhaps will no longer be even functional, something along that line. And at that time, I could not understand. But now I understand that, like, just like humans, almost every company has a certain lifestyle. And as a CEO, it's my responsibility to maximize it. I don't think there can be a company which will be functional forever. So my job is to maximize that lifespan of that company and put it on a track so that it continues uh, beyond a certain timeline or average timeline for sure.
Amen. Rupesh, thanks for the interview today. This was fascinating. I hope
Thanks.
everyone that listens to this got as much out of it as I did. And let's do it again. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you,
Let's do this
sir.
again sometime.
Absolutely. Would love to catch up. And you are one of the easiest to talk to. Love your question, the way you explore, summarize, like explore the question, ask in the right way, and then summarize the answer. It's amazing. Love it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Journal, we are here today. I'm excited to be introducing visionary entrepreneur, visionary leader, and master motivator, head of Network Music Group, and also CEO of the digital app Y Yoga, Terry McBride, coming to us from Vancouver, British Columbia. Terry, great to have you on the show, and love to hear, I guess, to start, sort of the background story of starting the music label. It looks like fresh out of college, and then take us to present day and the sort of the similarities, or why you would get into this new business. Not new, it's been around for a while. Yoga.
Thanks, Kurt. Nice to be here. Well, I mean, the history of network starts 40 years ago, 1984. So, kind of reached a point in my life where I had to make a choice. Sport of choice was field hockey, which is the wrong type of hockey.
Yeah,
Canadian.
it's hockey. If you're in Canada,
hockey,
right?
and I was playing at the national level, but there's
Wow.
one could never make a living from that. I was at UBC. I was in civil engineering. Back then, it was, if I wanted to be an architect, it was a 7-year plan, and I was literally 3.5 years in.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time seeing myself do another 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then my real love, which was music. So I took a sabbatical from civil engineering, took a sabbatical from playing field hockey, and focused on the light music business. First couple of years were a bit tough, and started off as an artist manager, not knowing anything. Started to learn slowly but surely, and then decided I wanted to start a record label, and I started it with a very good friend of mine who's still my business partner, Mark Jowett, and we started releasing music, and we didn't know a single thing. And probably for the first 10 years, we would have done better if we were living off welfare than what we were there. So needless to say, during definitely the first 5 years, I did everything from slinging pizzas to I was a barista for one day and got fired. It was too slow. To working in a record store, to DJing at a nightclub, to, sometimes doing weekend nights at a fish plant. Anything to make money. And then every other hour was then spent on the record label. And Mark did the exact same thing. So it was all self-funded. I think we got a $5,000 loan from the bank. And about every year we pay it back, and then we have to take it back out again. Finally, the guy said, look, I'm just going to give you a revolving, access it and pay it back as you go. I don't want to have to keep doing paperwork.
Yeah. Not bad.
And then, we like slowly built it. Probably our first known success was Sarah McLachlan, which started off very much in Canada.
I've heard of her. Yes.
Yeah, and then spread to the US. And literally on her Servicing, which I believe was her fourth album, we finally had that breakthrough moment. And that was all, also connected to a traveling festival called Lilith Fair, which was the first all-female traveling festival. And on average, we did 15 to 25,000 people a night. And we did it in 30 to 40 different US and, Canadian cities. And it was a phenomenal success. We did that for 3 years and then realized that we just couldn't keep doing it. It was just dominating our like whole lives.
That's a big undertaking. That's a business unto itself. You coordinating a festival. Good Lord.
Yeah, and trying to herd all of those other artists and their, managers.
Yeah.
It was challenging. It was challenging. It's, it's like, one thing to manage your own artists. It's another thing to have to deal with other managers and all of their quirks, right? So.
Now, how did you, we've had a couple of conversations prior to this, but how did you, I asked you about the album on your wall over your left shoulder. How did you get in touch with the folks involved in that record? Maybe you can tell the audience who that band is and how you get involved with them.
Oh, Coldplay. So this is probably back in, I might not have the dates exactly right, about 2020 approximately. We heard the demo of a song called Yellow. And we were part of the EMI distribution system at that time. And it turned out that all of the US labels associated with EMI had turned down releasing it. Which is, you like shake your head now, but if you go back to that time and like place, the pathway for this type of artist was on alternative radio in the US, so terrestrial radio.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no British music on terrestrial radio. It was all American.
Mm-hmm.
And the last British band that had success was Oasis. And then Oasis did a really good job of coming to North America and pissing everybody off. So American radio was over British music. So I could understand how Capitol and EMI and all of the, labels at that time said no. We heard the song and went, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I, phoned up the managing director of Parlophone, who was a, very good friend. I said, I'd like to release this record. And by the way, I also want to release a band called Doves. He said, Terry, you can't release both. Pick one. I said, I pick Coldplay. Okay, you got to send someone over to meet with the band. Right then I was going on a holiday. And if I had canceled that, I, probably would have ended my first marriage, a decade earlier than when it ended.
Yep.
So sent one of our managers over. The meetings went well. And we released a little song called Yellow, and then spent about 9 months turning it into, a top 10 single and, essentially breaking the band.
The rest is history. What year was that? Yeah, I thought you said 2020. That was much earlier than 2020.
I have to look. What does this thing say? Doesn't actually give a date. Hang on. This is 2000.
Yeah. 20 years off.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think the bands ended up in such a great spot. I mean, you go and see them live, it's inspirational. And, the fact that they're, playing that type of event and communicating that type of emotion to 70, 80,000 people a night, that is such a great thing.
I don't know anybody that does not like Coldplay's music. It was the first song. Yellow is actually, what a coincidence. The first song that my son, who's 10 years old, would sing, would walk around the house singing all day long. He heard it on the radio and you just, Alexa, play Coldplay Yellow. Alexa, play that song. And it was just one of those songs where I'll never forget it because it was my son's first favorite song, first favorite band.
So that leans in to a really good point. What is music? So lawyers will say it's intellectual property. Artists will say it's choruses, lyrics, bridges, verses. It's actually songs are emotions. So when someone attaches their emotion to that song,
Oof.
it becomes theirs and becomes a
Oh,
bookmark with inside their life. So whenever they hear that song, they can go right back to that time and place and that emotion. And that is the power of music. And you as a like parent can see it with inside your like kids.
I get the chills when you're talking about it because yeah, I'll never forget, that song for that simple reason. My kid
Yeah.
was 6 or 7 years old. I think it was during the pandemic, 2020, when he started singing it, which is just, it's eerie that you brought that up right now in this interview. Um, Fantastic story. Really,
Yeah. I
really
mean, that's
powerful.
what music is. Music's just emotions and people share emotions, right?
So
And that's why, the mixed cassette worked well, and the mixed CD worked well. And that's why playlists work really, really well. It's like sharing part of who and what you are.
it's all front brain stuff too. It's like that's where you wear your emotions. That's where the emotional part of the brain is, and that's what actually drives behavior, right? I'm a little bit slightly obsessed with this topic of, as a CEO, how do you tap into that? How do you tap into the emotions of the people that you work with, your coworkers, your employees, to drive action? And to me, much easier to start with the emotion, or to tap into the emotion to drive action, than it is to the logic part of the brain, right? To the reason.
Yeah, logic and the pragmatic part should come later. Should like come at the back end. If you can imagine something and you can close your eyes and you can see it, then the pathway to creating is actually backwards.
That's the start.
And guess what? If you're walking backwards, you're gonna trip, you're gonna fall down. Doesn't matter. You know exactly what it looks like. When I started the yoga company, I knew exactly what I wanted the studio to look like. Um, it, it, I was building a studio for myself. So one could say I was being selfless, but I could, or selfish,
Yeah, selfish. Yeah.
but I actually viewed it quite opposite in that there's millions of me. And so if I build something that I love, chances are others will love it too. Not exactly for the same reasons, but
Right.
for those same emotions. And if you
You
look at,
assume I'm feeling a certain way about this, I would imagine everyone else is going to feel the same way too, if it's pretty universal.
yeah, I mean, I had traveled a lot in Asia, and I could find yoga studios that I loved in Asia, but I couldn't find one in my my hometown. So I just decided to build one. And yoga and music, same business. The
What's
monetization of emotions. They're both thousands of years old, and it's all about emotions.
Yoga is about emotions. That's
It's the monetization of emotions.
the
It's the same.
monetization of emotions.
Yeah, it's the same as music.
It's fascinating. Very,
Yeah.
very interesting. I wonder about communicating emotions, or communicating a vision around um, what you see when you close your eyes. How does a visionary leader like you, a motivational person, communicate that vision um, to others that they work with? I guess the question is, do you have help with that? Or does it start with
Well,
you and then you have sort of a pragmatic CFO type or analytical that says, "Oh, here's how we want to bring that to fruition. Here's how we want that business to start." And maybe another personality type that says, um, "You know what? I could probably send that message better than you, Terry, or why don't you have me have that conversation with that bank?" All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, believe me, my CFO is far, far better with bank relationships than I am. No, I mean, I always view the role of a, CEO or someone who thinks in that manner as planting seeds.
Yeah.
And if you don't allow your, team to then take it and run with it, then they have no skin in it. They have no emotional attachment to it.
Yeah.
So I, the way that I always, approach this, and I mean, within inside the music company, one of my key meetings every single week is with the analytics team. And
Mhm.
and the analytics team is like a mixture of analysts, software dev, programmers, data scientists. So it's a broad collection. And we talk about broad topics, but then we go down rabbit holes. And I'll go, you know what? My gut says if we can see that, then we should be able to see this.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like a challenge to them. And then sometimes 3, 4 weeks later, they come back and says, we actually can see that. And this is what it looks like.
Wow.
So and this happens 20, easily 20 times a year, where just one of those sparks, they run with it. But if it doesn't resonate with them, they're not going to run with it.
Right.
And then if it comes up later, I have to frame it differently because I'm not the expert. I'm just a generalist.
Yep.
I have ideas, I have intuitions, and I really trust my intuition because annoyingly, it's always right. And everyone's intuition is usually 100% right. It's just a matter of whether you're going to pay attention to it,
Mhm.
right? And that's a very yogic thing. It's like, living in the moment, right? Like listen to what you're feeling. Whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's spiritually, whether it's you're just dreaming up things. There's a reason for it. Pay attention to it. I almost call it split conscience. It's like when you're in a dream and you've been in that dream multiple times, now you decide to consciously change the end of it.
Mhm.
So you're dreaming, but your conscious is split, and now you're going to change the end. And even if you have kids and you have that same conversation with those kids and you know where it's going to end.
Mhm.
If you want to change their behavior, throw them off by actually having a different reaction than what you did the 5 previous times.
Interesting.
And you will see them shift. It might only be a 1 or 2 degree shift, but a year later, that's a 10-degree shift.
Wow.
So it's life is business. So there's things that you can do in business that you can apply to life and vice versa. To me, they're completely interchangeable. They're directly related,
Yeah.
right?
As long as you're authentic, it works, right? If you're authentic in your business relationships, you're authentic with your family,
Yep.
you'll get alignment. Is what I've found. The next question was going to be around alignment. How do you duplicate Terry McBride in Los Angeles or one of these other cities that your company is operating in to have those same types of conversations and team buy-in?
It comes down to allowing people to have emotional skin in the game.
Emotional skin of the game.
Yeah. So if I lay out the whole vision, then people are just acting on it. They got no attachment to it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have any of their ideas in it. There's no emotional attachment. It's just really, I'm getting paid to do this. Where if you lay out something that's very broad, and then you allow people to run with things, then I call it, rather than putting people in a sandbox, put them on a beach with the understanding that every night the tide's going to wash it clean and they get to start fresh.
Okay. How do you
And
do
that's kind of
that?
how I approach business.
How do you do this? Give me an example of how you create this beach blue sky type of a session with your key people, and they just take it and run with it, and you say, yeah, piece of cake. That was me. Like I got him to do that, but
A good example is sitting at a fishing lodge with my 5 senior people, right? And they're talking about, I'm obviously at some point, I'm going to retire. It's probably, 5 years away. And they're like, we'd like to organize the company in this way. And I'm listening to them and finally going, no, you need to organize the company like an octopus.
okay.
There's a central brain and there's 8 arms. And each of those arms are their own individual community, which means their own individual record label run by their own individual managing director.
Mm,
If you do that, you create the major label vision of the 60s and 70s without all the BS attached to it. So you kind of create a matrix setup where your common services like royalties and finance and like everything go across in the horizontals, but the verticals are all communities with
mhm,
experts that know how to work that particular type of music.
that's the dream right
I
there.
said, so if you set it up that way, you also get rid of glass ceilings, because if all you do is do what we've already done, there's only one CEO, there's only one president. You're gonna lose all of your middle, upper, management people because they've got
Mhm.
nowhere to go. And
Right,
if I leave, then my current president's gonna run it for the next 10 years. Like,
right.
so you've got 20 people lining up for this. It just doesn't work. Where if you create the octopus, they each get to run something.
So who's the head of the octopus? Who's the head? Like, what is it? Shared services or shared resources is the head? A shared set of core values or the way that you do business, or not
Yeah,
even core values.
culture.
Okay, culture. Yep.
Culture, yeah. Those are all like shared. And then the trick is to make sure that these success stories and like the reasons why they were successful is like shared on the
Yep.
horizontals.
Horizontal. Yep.
To see where this, success on, this arm of the octopus can actually work on this arm of the octopus. And the only way that you can do that is if certain services are actually shared and
Mhm.
certain services are actually expert.
Mm, okay. So how have you dealt with conflict? How has conflict been dealt with in that scenario? Have you ever had, let's say, one arm of the octopus say, you know what, I think I'm going to be the head of the octopus now, or I think I'm going to I'm going to go in a different direction. Do you save those people, or do they you just say, hey, it was great, nice knowing you, and it was great working with you over the years, but we don't have the
I haven't
same.
really run into that yet, so I can't really say. I don't think you want to be the head of the octopus. It's like very operational.
Yeah.
It's not artistic. It's not emotionally fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a certain type of person who wants to be an ops person.
Mm-hmm.
So where if you're a managing director of one of the communities and you're probably in that community because you love that music,
Mm-hmm.
then you can build that community to 100 artists. So that's probably 5 to 7 years of like a lot of work.
For sure, I would think. I'm
And
curious
then
about.
you run your own P&L.
Okay, you
So,
run your own P&L.
so you're kind of in control of your destiny, of your emotional destiny,
Mm-hmm.
of your bonus attached to your P&L.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get to run your own business within inside the greater business. And if you really think of the major labels of the 60s, 70s, Warner's was a collection of labels, whether it was Atlantic or Warner Brothers or Reprise or Geffen, right? And all of those labels had a different palette, usually the palette of the person who actually ran it. So they were running community labels, even though they probably didn't view it that way.
Yeah. Tell me about wow, there's so many different directions I can take this conversation. I guess one of them is around you mentioned emotional, not equity, emotional buy-in, right?
Yeah.
Is the key. Is there I guess this is a structural question. Is there other owners of the label, or is it just you and your president? How does that work? Is
No,
that
I mean, we have our investor base is probably about 40 people, of which two of them are institutional. One is a family business.
uh
A group of very big, very well-known artists whose names I can't give.
mm-hmm,
And then there's people that have just been very successful in business.
mm-hmm,
And if you kind of look at my board, you can kind of see how I've like set it up.
right.
I've got someone like a Roger, McNamee that comes from tech, and is a very well-known tech, VC. He's, pretty much retired now, but he's was probably, early, money in Yelp and Facebook and all of these things. And, started a company called Elevation that had 3 of the 4 YouTube boys in it, right?
Yep.
And then, I got Jeff Rosen, who's Bob Dylan's manager, right? So you can begin to see how I've actually structured it. And then I got Cameron Strang, who was the previous chairman of Warner Brother Records, right? And then I got a couple of finance guys, and I've like balanced it between music people, tech people, and finance people, because in today's music business, you really are a combination of those 3 things.
Wow. So this is like a who's who in music and in business moguls, global music and business moguls around the world. What advice would you give to someone that was, the 20-something you that was going around, as a barista, bouncing around to different.
A barista for one day. Remember, I got fired.
You get fired after one day. There's a story there too, maybe on a different podcast, but I would love to.
It was very humbling.
For sure. There was growth there too, right? I mean, anytime you have a perceived failure or a something that did not meet expectations in your own life, right? There's a lesson learned.
The great thing is, if all you ever do turns out good or turns out right, then you learn absolutely nothing.
You learn nothing.
You only learn through the opportunity of your mistakes. And that's part of network culture. I would rather have you fail. Just fail quickly.
Fail quickly.
Yeah, I mean, don't be loyal to your failures.
Right.
Understand what they are, and try to look at it with that kind of split conscience. Like, okay, what was I supposed to learn here? Not versus what did I do wrong? That's not the question. What was I supposed to learn here?
Do you talk this way to your employees and coworkers? You were very open with this part of the story and with your early struggles and with the loans. I would imagine that's inspiring to hear that from a CEO, right? About these early days. It kind of just brings down the walls.
Yeah.
Communication.
No, I've always been this way. I'm very motivated. I very much know what I want to do, but I'm also very, very open, because a lot of what we're doing, others can do too, but they're always going to be 2 to 3 years behind us. It doesn't matter.
Would you be as successful today if you weren't that open? If you weren't like this, you think? Is this one of the keys?
That's a great question. I have no idea. I mean, I probably wouldn't have the culture inside the company that we have. It would probably be very, very top down, which I don't think is to anyone's benefit.
There's something about you, something about your personality where you're like, yeah, I want to have more conversations with that guy. I like you're just very easy to talk to. And you're very so much success, but not in an intimidating way in any way. So I would think that's that plays well, right? With your employees and your coworkers.
I guess so. I mean, we have really good retention. We have what I call boomerangs. So people that, started with us and then went elsewhere, either to get the MBAs or maybe work at another, company. And then a decade later, they come back to network. Right?
Wow.
So
that's something to be said for that. It's impressive. Tell me a little bit about your vision around why yoga. Yoga is, I think I've tried it a couple of times with my wife. It was during a certain period. I'm not sure why we did it. It kicked my butt. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be, but it was amazing. I was just used to either boxing or lifting weights. I'd love to get back to it, but what's the vision with digital yoga, having the digital app versus the studio? What are you seeing there, and where's that going?
So let me give you a bit of a history. So similar to you, I did lots of sports. I did lots of tennis, and when I went to do yoga, I went in there going, this is going to be easy.
Right.
And it was, it was utterly humbling. And I can remember like a decade later bringing some Olympic swimmers who are all shaped the same way. They're all 6'4". They're cut like this,
Yeah, V-shaped
right?
back. Yeah.
Really long, long muscles. And I can, remember bringing this person in who won a medal at the London Games. And he was right behind me. And two slightly overweight ladies were right next to him. And he's like, right? And start going through all the poses, and then they're like doing them all. And I could see him at some point, he's starting to shake. And at a certain point, he's looking at them with the understanding that they're doing the pose and he couldn't.
They're doing the what?
They're doing the poses and he couldn't.
And he couldn't do the poses.
Because he had the big muscles. He didn't have the balance muscles. So he kept hard at that practice for the next 3 months because he understood that those small balance muscles could take a tenth of a second off him leaving the block. And he, credits it to winning a medal. So it just, yoga's a different type of fitness. And I highly recommend people do it because it's about the balance muscles. It's about standing on one leg with your eyes closed and your foot in some other direction. If you can do that, then you're actually training your body different. And when you really get to a certain spot, you'll do most of your yoga with your eyes closed, and then it becomes a moving meditation. All you are is inside your body, listening to your body for an hour. That's a meditation. The power of that and how you go into that practice and how you come out, completely different person.
Now I'm starting to get it. You had me at balance because you're talking to somebody that for years I've struggled with coordination. Sometimes, my son I see it with my son as well. He's an athlete. He's a very good athlete, but every once in a while he'll just trip and fall or just certain things where you go, man, I wish I had a little better balance, a little more coordination.
Ask them to stand on one leg, put their hands in the air, and close their eyes. They will fall over or they'll start shaking because they don't have the small muscle structures that they need to have in their ankles for when they're 50, 60, 70, and 80. Like that.
Boy, is that important. Yeah. Does that get ever more important in those years?
Yeah, because most people as they get older fall. And it's usually, the falls that break the hips or break the shoulders and
crushes your will. And it crushes your will.
Cause the rapid descent. Right. So, having those balance muscles is super, super key. But yoga is, when you get it to a certain level, it might start off being a physical practice, but at the end of the day, it actually becomes a mental practice.
I can see that. I can see if you feel like you're in balance or you're physically balanced, how the mental and emotional state becomes more balanced too. You just feel more. This is me imagining what the feeling is, right? To be a yoga,
it's like when you're in the zone inside a sport, tennis or soccer, when you're in that zone, you are in a meditative spot.
Yeah.
That is when you get to that point with inside yoga,
oh,
it's a moving meditation. You can visualize what you're going to do and where it's going to go. And any elite athlete, so much of it is visualization, right? So yoga is about that. And you kind of start to get there because if you've got your eyes closed and you're bouncing on one leg, if you don't focus on what you're doing, you're going to fall over. So every other thought's gone. You're just trying to hold this damn pose, right? You're not thinking about anything else. It's almost like, it's almost your flight response, right? So you're locked in, which means everything else is locked out. And it's the beginning of being present with inside the moment.
I've had this conversation with close friends in sports, and I'm glad you mentioned the word zone, but I'm 46 years old. To my recollection in sports, I've only ever been in the zone once. And I remember it to this day, and I'll never forget it. I could describe it, but this interview isn't about me. Tell me a time when you you felt you were in the zone. And what is that feeling? What does it mean to be in the zone, either in sports or in business or in yoga?
I mean, yoga, it's doing the practice with your eyes closed, right? I would say with inside sports, it's just that visualization. Like, I can like remember playing, tennis against my, partner, Mark, and he like loves to do these short cuts across the like court, which make you haul your ass
Yep.
off court to get the damn ball.
Yep.
And then he comes to the net. So the only way that you can get it is to lob it over.
Yep.
To do that, you got to be in the zone.
Right.
Like you have to visualize exactly
Right.
what you can do because you're literally catching the ball about that far away from the ground when you're actually doing it. And it's that feeling. And when I like played field hockey, that was the adrenaline rush to me.
Yeah.
Was to get to the level that I was able to get to. I had to be in the zone.
I would describe it as almost healthy adrenaline, because adrenaline, I'm told by some medical professionals, is not good for you.
It is not good for you.
It's actually not good.
Runners get in that zone.
Yeah.
Where, you get really good at running 15, 20 minutes into,
Right.
a run. You're not thinking about running.
Right. Yeah.
You're not looking around. You're like
Right.
thinking about some other issue.
Right.
So it's singular.
Yeah. And there's
You're
no
running.
distraction.
So your mind's one place and your, subconscious, which is making you run.
Yep.
The subconscious is doing one thing, the conscious is doing something completely different.
Yep.
That's kind of like in the zone.
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling. To me, it's a feeling of there's absolutely no distraction whatsoever happening up here. Nothing can shake your focus. Nothing can shake your focus, and you're not even trying to be focused. You're not even trying.
Well, you're not paying attention to anything else.
Right. Right.
Nothing else exists except what you're doing.
Man, I could go on and on this topic forever, but I'm so glad you brought it up, and you have me very interested in looking into yoga after this interview.
Yeah, yoga, and there's so many lineages of yoga, sorry. So figure out the one that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Because then you'll actually stick with it and understand that as you progress through age, you will try other lineages, right? And yoga's
Languages. Is that what you said? Languages?
Lineages.
Lineages. Okay.
So different types of yoga. There's there's your hot yoga, there's your hathas, there's your flow, there's your power, there's your iyengar, and kundalini, and there's all these different like types, and they all bring different things to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And part of why I created why yoga is a lot of studios only taught one lineage, sometimes two, and I'm like, that's not how people work. People have to find something to resonate with, and it might not, if it's not that lineage, they're not going to last more than a week. So allow them a 20-year path, and you will create a community. And communities, or in like yoga shalas, which are safe places to practice, are incredibly valuable to the overall community. So
this has been one of the most fascinating interviews I've ever had, and I talk to a lot of people every day, every week. Let's do this again, Terry. There's a lot more questions I want to get to with you. I'd love to have a part 2 of Owner's Journal with Terry McBride, because I'm going to do a little more research into this yoga topic. But thank you very much for your time today, Terry, and now let's keep in touch.
Okay, take care.